Let us pray. Baba wethu sekhaya ezulwini namanje ntambama siletha udumo kuwe, siletha ubukhosi, amandla nenkazimulo. As we begin this study, sicela baba okhazimulayo kuba ubanye nathi, sivikele kona kokubi nakwi-network, nakwi-load shedding, asiphephe kona konke okubi. Izwakale izwi lakho ukhuluma nabantu bakho kulo ntambama nje, udumo lube kuwe, amandla, ubukhosi nenkazimulo, ngoKristu obongayo manje uze phakade. Amen.
Amen.
Angiqale ngithi as we begin, I'm hoping ukuthi indaba kaMakolose 2 verses 13 to 17 okanye lenkinga besinayo yokuthi sengazathi imithetho yabethelwa esiphambanweni, incwadi yomthetho emqulu lo wabethelwa esiphambanweni, meaning ukuthi asenayo asamele thina siyigcine ngoba uJesu wasigcinela, he fulfilled the law. Siyakwazi ukuthi manje siyibeke eceleni ngokupheleleyo. Uzibuze lo mbuzo nje obalekile. Uma kuJesu asigcinele imithetho so that thina singayigcini, angithi futhi wasifela ukuze thina singabe sisafa. Why siqhubeka sifa namanje? Uma kuJesu asigcinele imithetho ukuze thina singayigcini, all right? Why kusekhona into okuthiwa isono? Ngoba isono ukwephula umthetho. So that tells us clearly ukuthi le theory ethi away with umthetho ayiveli kuNkulunkulu, ivela kumuntu ovele phambene noNkulunkulu, olwisana noNkulunkulu nemithetho yakhe. Asedluleke singena kwisifundo sesake saba naso ngaphambilini, Isambulo 18. Abanye bethu I'm sure basifunda okwesithathu noma ngiqale ngithi okwesibili, abanye bazothi yena usesenza okwesithathu, omunye uzothi wenza okwesine, okwesihlanu and things like that. Absolute okubalekile singena kulesi sifundo Revelation 18. Babylon is fallen is the title esibhekene nayo. But before siqale kulesi sifundo asikhumbule lokho ebesikade sikhumbuzana ngakho all along encwadini yesambulo. That is still standing even today. Ukuthini? Uthi Malachi 3 verses 16 to 18. Then those who feared the Lord talked with each other as we are talking. And the Lord listened and heard. Full stop. Iqhubeke ithi kwi-NIV, and a book or a scroll of remembrance was written in his presence. Who is his? The Lord's presence. Concerning those who feared the Lord and honored his name. Akugcini lapho nje kube kuphela. Ube sethi verse 17 or verse 18, and I will spare them as a man spares his own son who serves him. Verse 18, then you shall again discern between the righteous and the wicked, between the one who serves God and the one who does not serve him. And chapter 18 is going to make that distinction crystal clear as we begin this study. Siqhubeke ne-warning. Kwincwadi yesambulo, verse 3, chapter 1, verse 3, there are warnings we find there. Warnings in verse 3, uthi oqala, blessed is the one who reads. So the moment you read this book, you get a blessing. Aphinda blessed is the one who hears onendlebe ozwayo lencwadi mayifundo, is getting a blessing. The third blessing, blessed is the one who takes to heart. But what does take to heart mean? Let me help you. The emphasis on taking to heart is upon acting on the words. Acting on these words. Matthew 7 verse 25 uthi, therefore, everyone hears these words of mine and acts upon them is like a wise man who built his house on the rock. Verse 25, the rain fell and the torrents raged and the winds blew and beat against that house, yet it did not fall. Why? Because its foundation was on the rock. Verse 26, ngiyamthanda-ke uma esesho kanjena verse 26 athi, but everyone who hears these words of mine and does not act upon them, or does not do them, or does not do as I am saying, that one is like a man, a foolish man, who built his house on the sand. I'm sure you don't want to be that kind of a man who builds his house on the sand. Build on the rock. Please, I said on the rock. That means as you hear these words of Christ, you must act upon them. Akukusiza ukuthi uzwile. Kukusiza lokho. Okubalekile ukuthi wenzeni ngalokho. That's what we do for Revere God Ministries. Iningi labantu lifunda lencwadi yesambulo exactly the way God told Isaiah in chapter 6 verses 9 to 11. Laithe khona uNkulunkulu through the mouth of Isaiah. Hear ye indeed, but understand not. See ye indeed, but perceive not. According to the King James Version. Athi mayiqhubeka, make the heart of these people dull. Dull means in Hebrew says, make it fat. Make it fat. Uyabona ama inhliziyo udla amanoni kakhulu, amafutha kakhulu nokudla noshukela, izibe semanonini besiyehluleka ukuphamba. It is fat. Uyabona nomuntu ongazacile njengami akakwazi nokuhamba because it's fat. Make the heart of these people to be fat, to be dull, and their ears heavy, and blind their eyes, lest they see with their eyes and hear with their ears and understand with their hearts and turn and be healed. Then Isaiah cried out and said, for how long, Lord? And the Lord answered him and said, until the cities lie ruined. Very, very soon, cities will lie ruined, dear friends. In chapter 22, verses 18 and 19, there are warnings there. There's just one warning, or two warnings, or three, I don't know, but they are warning. The final one, it says, verse 18, for I testify unto every man. Remember, when it says man there, does not mean a male. It means a human being, a person. The word that is being used there in Greek is anthropos, meaning a human being. For I testify unto every man or person that hears these words of the prophecy of this book, that is telling us not any other book, but this one of Revelation. If any man shall add unto these things, God shall add unto him the plagues that are written in this book. Which book? The book of Revelation. And if any man shall take away from the words of the book of this prophecy, then God shall take away his part in the book of life. That's too serious now. I can't afford that. And God shall take away his part in the book of life, and out of the holy city, and from the things which are written in this very book. That is too great a chance one to take. I won't dare come any way closer to that. I'm sure you agree with me there. Let's get to chapter 18. But before we get to chapter 18, let's get on a little bit of a revision, because chapter 18 opens with the words, after this. So if it says after this, that means there is something that has been happening. Then it says after it. What is it that was happening there? It's chapter 17 that we're coming from. Chapter 17, verse 1 chapter 17. One of the seven angels who had the seven bowls came and said to me, come, I will show you the punishment of the great prostitute who sits on many waters. And if you remember very well, friends, when we did that chapter, we did not see the punishment. We were taken to that one. We were shown the woman and shown many other things. But the actual punishment, we did not come to it until we come to chapter 18. That's where we see the actual punishment being meted out against this great whore or prostitute. And we are told, Oguti, in this verse, that who is this woman? Chapter 16, verse 19. The great city split, and God remembered who? Babylon the Great, and gave her the cup filled with the wine of the fury of his wrath. That was chapter 16. So we are born to Skamagude nalo Babylon. As Kamugi manje, kukude lasivela khona nalo Babylon. But ke, chapter 17, verse 18, and uthi the kings of the earth, they commit fornication with her. That means she rules over them. She rules over them in verse 18. So I'm going to play you a video now. And please listen to that video very, very carefully. And I might not play the second one. I've prepared two videos for you. But in the discussion, I will come back to the second video. Let me play you this first video for now.
His own ministry that is specifically focused on bringing unity to the churches. And he's not just going to this conference of the charismatics, but he's making the rounds in every way he can to bring the different churches together. He does a masterful job. He's framing himself as the prophet Elijah with a message to bring the children back to the fathers and the fathers to the children. A message of unity, playing down doctrinal differences. You can listen and see what you think.
I could turn the hearts of the fathers to the sons to prepare the way for the Lord.
that prophecy always has a double fulfillment. And we know that Elijah will come before the second coming as well. And I've understood that the spirit of Elijah is the spirit of reconciliation.
You see, friends, what is happening here? This is a Roman Catholic priest who's calling all other churches, including the evangelicals and including the Seventh-day Adventists, calling them back to Rome. And listen very carefully now to what he's saying here.
To return hearts to each other. This is very important. We know that the first 1,000 years there was one church, it was called the Catholic Church. And the word Catholic means universal. It doesn't mean Roman. Catholic means if you're born again, raise your hand if you're born again. You're a Catholic. Don't want to make too much out of it because he's take back, redeem what belongs to you. We are Catholics. And then there was a split at the end of the first millennium. We had the Orthodox, East and West, two churches. Then 500 years later, we have Luther and his protest. Three churches in 1,500 years. Three denominations, not three churches. And then, from Luther's protest onwards, 33,000 new denominations. You see what's happening here, friends, is he's calling it Luther's protest. Instead of it being the Protestant movement or the Protestant Reformation, I've come to understand that diversity is divine. It's division that's diabolic. I don't know if you caught that, friends, but that's very significant and troubling. Diversity is wonderful, it's divine. But division is diabolical. See, that's just patently not true. Not all division is diabolical. The Bible tells us that the Word of God divides. It's sharper than any two-edged sword. Jesus said, I've not come to send peace, but to send a sword. He was saying about the glory, I agree with you, of course it's true. The glory that the Father had gave to Jesus, the glory was the presence of God. What is the charismatic renewal? It's when we experience the presence of God. And he said, and I give them the glory, pragmatic reason, so that they may be one. It's the glory that glues us together, not the doctrine. He said he is also a charismatic. He speaks in tongues. He supports that. Yeah.
All right, friends. I think we may not waste play the entire video here. Let's move on. Let's move on, dear friends. I really, yes, let's move on. So what we have just seen here is the woman or the church. Remember, our prophetic keys, we divided them into two. There was the constant keys that never change and the variable keys that changes. Now, in this chapter, we are for now looking at the constant key. A woman represents the church. All right? Now, this woman is going to be explained further and then change into a variable as well when this woman becomes the city. But we're not there for now. So, what we're seeing here, we're seeing this church, this woman, now consolidating the only part that she does not yet control. Remember, she controls the kings of the earth. Every president, when he's just been elected, it doesn't matter from which country, has to go to the Vatican. So that's what she rules over the kings of the earth. And then now she wants every church to belong, to come back and be under her. It says Catholic means universal. Come, all of us, let's be one group again. That's what he's saying there. All right? So she was calling them to come back to her so that they too should be under her control. I've said that we also warned that chapter 18, Losimkalayo, is very apocalyptic. So it would need to be a very a special person. We need some specialization here of a person with a gift of prophecy. So we also warn that such people are, or persons are in very short supplies, very short supplies. So we believe there is a vast difference between someone who is inspired momentarily as a preacher. When you mount the pulpit and you preach, we are inspired at that moment. That is different from a person who has been called and who ate the book. You remember I spoke about eating the book? It says, then the voice that I had heard from heaven spoke to me once more. Go, take the scroll that lies in the hand of the angel who is standing on the sea and on the land. So I went to the angel and asked him to give me the little book or the little scroll. He said to me, take it and eat it. It will turn to your stomach sour, but in your mouth it will be sweet as honey. Remember how we explained that? We said that means John the Revelator here was being anointed as the prophet. So he was the prophet. Now let's go on now. Let's go on now. So we're making a distinction between a person who's momentarily being inspired and a person who is on a prophetic call to be a prophet. Let's go now straight into our topic and look at the book of Revelation chapter 18. Let's read from verses 1 to 4. There is verse 18, friends. Chapter 18, verses 1, 2, and 3, and 4, or if we can get there. After this, I saw another angel coming down from heaven. He had great authority, and the earth was illuminated by his splendor. With a mighty voice, he shouted, "Fallen, fallen is Babylon the Great. She has become a dwelling for demons and a haunt for every impure spirit and a haunt for every unclean bird, a haunt for every unclean and detestable animal. For all the nations have drunk the maddening wine of her adulteries. The kings of the earth committed adultery with her, and the merchants of the earth grew rich from her excessive luxuries." Most commentaries, when you read them here, they will tell you this is a commercial Babylon. And they are actually distinguishing between the one in Revelation 16 and 17 from this one in chapter 18. They are saying these are two and different. That one is commercial because it's trading, it has to do with trading, markets and all of those. And this one, that one was religious. But understand me, my friends, Babylon is just Babylon. Nothing better, nothing different. Babylon is Babylon. That is it. We like Innocent Bible.org makes a prediction that Babylon of this chapter, the Babylon of this chapter, that is chapter 18, undoubtedly includes an actual city that will be built or rebuilt on the river Euphrates and things like that. And we think they say so because of the distinction they make between the Babylon of chapter 17 and the Babylon of chapter 18. They have two Babylons for them. Where they get number two, I have no clue, but they have two Babylons. But we like Revelation Made Clear.com when they say, Revelation 18 describes the impact and meaning of the fall of Rome. That's what RevelationMadeClear.com are saying. Let's go to our friend. You remember we used to quote and read from Uriah Smith in his book, Daniel and Revelation? Yes, let's visit him on page 710. He says there, Babylon is a term which embraces not only the Roman Catholic Church, but religious bodies which have sprung up from her, bringing many of her errors and of her traditions along with them. So, no, this term Babylon, we mustn't confine it so much on the Roman Catholic Church. It also includes those churches which came from Rome, Protestant churches to say, if they came from Rome, and they are bringing the same doctrines and the same errors, the same mistakes that Rome was talking about, bring them along here into Christianity. Let's look at the other angel there. After this, I saw another angel. Now, this other angel, we are saying here, we should not confuse this other angel with the angel of chapter 14, for example. Or why did John here specify that another angel? He's saying so because there was an angel in chapter 17, verse 1, who wanted to show him the punishment of this great prostitute. But it's not that angel anymore. It is this other angel. This one came directly from God with much splendor. I almost went there. I did not go there. All right? So, since Revelation 14, angels of God had been seen to be proclaiming the everlasting gospel. I know Uriah Smith says angels have not been committed to preach this gospel to human beings, to fallen human beings, but they would love to do that when given a chance. But allow me to be literal in this case. So, if you look in Revelation 14, verses 6 to 11, let's visit that verse also quickly. To 11. Then I saw another angel flying in the midst of heaven, having an everlasting gospel to preach to those who dwell on the earth, to every nation, tribe, tongue, and people, saying with a loud voice, "Fear God and give him glory, for the hour of his judgment has come, and worship him who made the heaven and the earth and the sea and the springs of water." And another angel followed, saying, "Babylon is fallen, that great city, because she has made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication." And that is, maybe another here would be saying the same angel because they are carrying the same message. I'm not too sure. Let's go back. It should be remembered that of chapter 17, God had promised to show the judgment of this great whore. Let's go straight to Tom Stewart in his book, The Commentary on the Book of Revelation, page 177, paragraph 2, where he says, with Tom Stewart, "But to do so, he had to give John a better understanding in that chapter of the identity of the whole, the beast, and the 10 horns." So we suggest that that is pretty much the work done in chapter 17. And now, in this chapter 18, we are going to read about the actual judgment. Let's look at the fall. Let me begin with the word fall. What does fall mean? fall as a verb, it means to move from a higher to a lower level, typically rapidly and without control. That's what the dictionary says. So the verse is saying Babylon the Great is fallen, is pronounced as fallen. BibleRef.com then calls this fall a spiritual corruption. I like it when they say that. They say this isn't just a falling, but it's a spiritual corruption. That means he's moving from another level of spirituality to a lower level of spirituality, and rather rapidly. BibleStudy.org also agree with BibleRef.com when they say the woman was a corrupt religious system and not a city. But the Bible says a city. We are going to look at how this woman and the city are related, because the angel said in chapter 17, verse 18, the woman that you saw is a city. Uriah Smith says in Daniel and Revelation, page 290, the fall of Babylon here spoken of cannot be literal destruction, for there are events that are yet to take place in Babylon after her fall, red words, and which utterly forbids the idea of a literal fall. We are saying literal in spiritual sense, meaning really moved from one position to a lower position, from a higher position to a lower position. This, Uriah Smith, he bases that on the fact that there are God's people who are being called out of Babylon, this same Babylon, as we speak. This convinces him that the fall here then is rather a spiritual one rather than a literal fall. Remember, we said in the beginning when we're dealing with chapter 1 of the book of Revelation, the book of Revelation uses a flashback method. That means as it takes you forward, it also refers you back to what it has been saying in the past. So as a flashback here in chapter 14, verse 8, it did proclaim the Babylon as fallen, and we do better to revisit that call, chapter 14, verse 8, as a matter of a flashback. We're looking at John Gill there. In his exposition of the Bible, he says, though the angels desire to look into the mystery of the everlasting gospel, yet the preaching of that is not committed to any of them. That's exclusively human. But a minister of the gospel is intended to do that work, who is the angel of the church according to the Revelation chapter 1, verse 20. We understand that the angels have not been given that privilege of preaching directly to the fallen human beings the gospel, as in 1 Peter 1, verse 12. But another angel of Revelation 18, verse 1 could and should be taken to mean another angel with a reference to the one of chapter 17, verse 1. I'm saying we need to understand the angel of chapter 17 in the book of Revelation and this angel of chapter 18 as angels, not as ministers. That's all I've been saying there. So we think this angel is different to the one in Revelation 14, verses 6 to 11, and does not refer to a minister or a pastor of the church, contrary to what John Gill is asserting above. Listen to E.G. White in the Story of Redemption, page page 356, as she says, the blue words, the prophecy of the first angel's message, blah, 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 found its fulfillment in the Advent movement of 1844 or 1842. Please understand this one. By Advent movement here is not a name of a church, a particular church, but this is just a group of people who were reading or were studying the Bible together. They are a movement. So if you left the movement to become a church, bad luck. I'm still in the movement, Advent movement. We are admonished not to look at the Roman Catholic Church only when identifying Babylon the Great. Maybe I need to pause here and take you back to the video I've been promising you.
Martin Luther would box the ears of any Protestant who claimed that evangelicals and Catholics are together because we're anything but. Yeah, we share some commonalities like the Trinity, heaven, hell, some of the theological basics, but there is a vast chasm between evangelicals and Catholics, the papacy, Mariology, soteriology, bibliology, purgatory, and the list goes on. The question that many of us have asked is, when did this happen? When exactly did the Catholic Church start getting all wonky? After all, that's why we had that little old Protestant Reformation. Let's jump into our DeLorean and take a look back in time. The very early years of the church, not the Roman Catholic Church. It didn't become that till the Bishop of Rome amassed a whole lot of power. But in the first few centuries, basically, we were banging out orthodoxy. And please note, not every church father that you read is worthy of your respect because not all were actually orthodox. But it wasn't until, give or take, 4th century that the church started teetering over the edge of orthodoxy, and the Roman Catholic Church has been zooming down that slippery slope of heresy ever since. Number 1, prayers for the dead. They can't actually hear a word from us. Started, give or take, 300 AD. Veneration of dead saints, the 370s. Mass, daily re-sacrificing of Jesus Christ on the cross. That was about late 300s. Marian dogmas, early, mid-400s, referring to Mary as Theotokos, which is right because she is the mother of God, but many intended that to elevate her to divine-like status. That's a big no-no. And so is the doctrine of purgatory, which totally undermines the redemptive work of Jesus, where you go to some netherland to pay for your own sins, about the late 500s. Prayers to Mary, give or take 600. Worship of images and relics, late 700s. Do you see the progression? Canonization of saints, late 900s. The celibacy of priests. Wow. I guess a lot of priests were sinning for centuries. It's found nowhere in Scripture, which has led to an avalanche of sexual perversion among priests throughout history.
Yeah, friends, we don't have all the time. Let us go back to our study, and we can come back to him after that, and we've seen what we needed to hear there. So we're saying, he was saying, Revelation is not only about the Roman Catholic, and we've seen Uriah Smith also attesting to this one, that no, there are other churches. You see, he started enumerating that there are some commonalities between these churches and Rome, and once there is any commonality with them, then you know you need to come out there. Frankly, you need to come out there, get out there even right now. Why? Because God says so. We are admonished not to look at the Roman Catholic Church only when identifying the Great Babylon. Since this message follows the warning of the judgment, it must be given in the last days. Therefore, it cannot refer to the Roman Church alone, for at that time, that church has been in a fallen condition for many centuries. That is a great controversy on page 326. Furthermore, the same book continues, the same commentary continues. Furthermore, in the 18th chapter of Revelation, where we are, the people of God are called upon to come out of Babylon. That is now. The people who are living, people of God in 2022, are being called to come out of Babylon. According to this scripture, many of God's people must still be in Babylon. You cannot come out of Babylon unless you are in Babylon. That's what the scriptures say. And in what other religious bodies are the greater part of the followers of Christ now to be found? And it says, without a doubt, in the various churches professing the Protestant name, Protestant faith. Your church, yes, I mean your church is also there. Read the book, The Great Controversy, page 326. You'll find that one and even more. I just gave you a snippet. Listen to this commentary from Richard Kalona of the Catholic Christian Institute, who wrote a preface there. He says, if Rome were ever guilty of idolatry, did you get that? If Rome were ever guilty of idolatry in relation to the saints, her daughter, who is her daughter, Richard? The Church of England. He answers, it stands guilty of the same, which has 10 churches dedicated to Mary for one dedicated to Christ. So, is this Catholic person, Catholic priest, denying that they are? No, it's not. He's saying, we have others too. Look at others. They must be the same. That's why that commentary was saying that. Let's look at the fall now. Let's look at the fall. So we are going back to Tom Stewart in his book, who says on page 178, Mighty Babylon has been divinely, officially, and finally abandoned to its judgment, cutting off the invitation of salvation to all those taking refuge within her treacherous walls. Listen, that is not an Adventist, lest you think, no, that's not an Adventist. The Great Controversy now says, a terrible condition of the religious world is here described. What do you mean by here? GC, Great Controversy. I mean in chapter 18. There's a religious world that is whose condition is so terrible that is being described here. Then the GC, the Great Controversy, then says this, explains further to us how that condition has been reached by the inhabitants of the earth. With every rejection of truth, the minds of the people will become darker, their hearts more stubborn, until they are entrenched in an infidel of hardihood. No, friends, that's just a description of how this thing happens. With every rejection, you reject this truth today, you reject this one today. With that, your heart, you see, your mind becomes darker, and your heart more stubborn, and then you get to be entrenched in this infidel of hardihood. Angeke ngenze lutho mina. Asikwenzi lutho kwakade. We're just sharing the word of God with you. In defiance of the warnings which God has given, they will continue to trample upon the precepts of the Decalogue. Decalogue means the 10 Commandments, or the commandments of God, until they are led to persecute those who hold it sacred. Let me just pause there. I did share, was it a WhatsApp or a tweet with some people? I asked them, what does it mean? It's talking about a four-day week. 4-day week. 4-day working week. 4 days working week. Instead of 5 days working week or 6 days working week. It's 4 days now. And somebody was saying, I don't know what this one is saying. What does it mean? I had to explain, no. There's a preparation here. Preparation to declare Sunday as a family and a church day. That's where we're going. That is what we commonly understand as the Sunday law. It's coming. It's very soon now. Christ set at naught in the contempt place, or Christ is set at naught in the contempt, contempt placed upon his word and his people. Who said do it? Let the heart of these people be fat. Let their ears be heavy, so that their minds be dark, be blinded in their eyes, so that they cannot hear, lest you become saved. So I don't want you to do it. No, I'm just giving it to you. Yes, just giving it to you. Whatever you do with it, that's fine with me. So that's what I've been saying all along. I'm still saying it now. So the profession of religion will become a cloak, ibhanti. Kakade abantu sokusuka ama-crooks ayibiza ngabaprophet banqola imali lezi in the name of Christ niyikhiphe ngani bayeke laba bathi bafuna imali zenu bafuna nifunde nje kuphela. I'm sure you did notice the tense that was being used in this commentary. You see that? The tense here employed is the present perfect tense, meaning the fall must have started in the past and is now complete. Remember, with every rejection, you reject this today, you reject this today, your mind becomes stubborn, you're darker. So until it starts somewhere until it gets onto this level. So we therefore agree with Uriah Smith when he says she experienced a fall after rejecting the first angel's message. That is page 291 of the Daniel and Revelation. Now, let's look at some other examples. I've begun to give you these examples. Let me give you these ones now that are on your notes. You see, we are digging some proof now as exhibit in favor of Uriah Smith and others as they refer to Roman Catholic Church as Babylon. This prophecy says, she made all nations drink of her maddening wine, and that she rules over the kings of the earth. We shall then endeavor to prove this somehow. On the right-hand side here, we see on the right-hand side here are some extracts. I'll just go to zoom into what I have highlighted there. Looking at that one, is saying, a fitting sequel is Beatrice to her papist legends and Bible truths, in which she terribly exposed the unmeaning frivolity and vast absurdity of Romanism. Aqhubeke athi uthuli Anne Murray aqhubeke athi, its object is to expose the deceptive of arts of popery and of the Jesuits. Jesuits, those are theologians of the Roman Catholics who are bent on destroying everything that is Protestant. Primary on their target are the Adventist people. And this it does with great truthfulness and effect. In aiding to remove from the world the great curse of humanity, the popery. That's what this one. It cannot be otherwise than greatly useful in aiding to remove from the world the great curse of popery. That's what Murray says. Let's look at this one. This one is from Reverend Gardner Spring, Doctor of Divinity. Didi, that is Doctor of Divinity, who was a pastor of the Presbyterian Brick Church in New York at that time. This is what he's saying here. Beatrice is a good book and worthy of its distinguished author. It is well written and calculated at the present time to be useful. As an exhibition of the practical errors of the Roman Catholic Church, it deserves a wide circulation. That's what he says. That's what he says. Let's look at others. This one is from Father Gavazzi. Father Gavazzi, who was a Roman Catholic priest himself, and who he was bent on exposing all the errors. From the inside, he knows, because this is where he belonged. This was his church. And he discovered what is wrong with his church. Unlike you, who cannot learn to discover what is not right with your church. He learned to discover what was wrong with his church, and he acted on it by warning others. He says, Gavazzi soon discovered its falsehood. Gavazzi soon discovered, let me start there, profoundly versed in the various systems of the Church of Rome. Gavazzi discovered its falsehood, its utter want of principle. Might want of principle, ayinayo principle, but yefuna, and its culpable indulgence, its cowardly threats. He knew that instead of seeking to civilize and enlighten the priests, sought to mislead and enslave. Those are his words, not mine. That a religion entailing such consequences could not be the religion of God, capital letter G. That's what Gavazzi says, not me. He continues to say, I begin by the war against Protestantism. Remember I told you about the Jesuits, that they are theologians, Catholic theologians, who are declaring war against Protestantism. There is Gavazzi saying it now. that made directly by men of the Roman Catholic faith. Those are Jesuits. In the latter part of the lecture, I shall prove this by means of Protestant allies, that popery, or the Pope, is always at war against Protestantism. Anithi ke nina usephendukile. Yes. Leopard iswashintshile amabala esikhumba sayo, ne? Happy are you? Is a general proposition which doesn't require any proof. Kusho umuntu waseKatolika uthi no, you don't need the proof for this one. I proceed to speak of the present war against Protestantism because it should be always present to the minds of Protestants. Keep that in your mind that, hey, you are at war. As long as you are not a Catholic, you are a Protestant, you are at war. And I did not come out of Rome, unfortunately. No claim on me. We're not friends. I'm not taking your doctrines either. All right. This war must continue because today in Rome, it is a simple proposition that either popery must come down or the gospel cannot thrive. You see that? It's either that popery must come down or the gospel cannot thrive. That's what Father Gavaz is saying. So, I'm not going to go too deep into that. Let me continue because of time. So, with a mighty voice, the angel shouted, all right? RevelationMadeClear.org says here, this angel pronounced judgment on Babylon because of her great immoralities. I asked you to give these immoralities as your assignment. I'm hoping that you'll give it to me. They quickly notice the tense as employed in the angel's judgment message that as they say, he speaks in prophetic certainties. Whilst he's talking of the past, he's also talking of the future as though this thing has already happened when it had not happened at that time. And it has not happened even at this time. Therefore, we're looking at this prophecy as futuristic in nature. According to this commentary, Babylon falls because she has become a dwelling place of wickedness and evil. What is it saying to me? It's saying, take a good car, a Rolls Royce, or any other Porsche car, good running, then it breaks down. And when it breaks down, then it is izaleli inkukhu. Uhlale inyoka namakoko yonke into phakathi kuyona. That's the condition abazama ukuyichaza of this Babylon here. Echazwa na ingelosi. It has become the habitation of the unclean things. We are going to see how this is being truthful in the, all right. Not only as, okay, we've seen that one. Then, according to the previous commentary, the nations were active participants in the immorality of this Lord Babylon. It suggests that the merchants of the earth have prospered through the immorality of Rome. Sesithengiselwe no oxygen, uthengiselwe negazi abalithole mahala. Tell me that is not corruption, immorality. You get it free, and yet you sell it to people. They quote from history, which they say it reveals the luxurious living that took place in Rome over the centuries because of its extensive trade routes. The great controversy then says, the power that for so many centuries maintained despotic sway over the monarchs of Christendom is Rome. And friends, on this statement from CNN.com about the LGBTQI community, which says they earn more, save more, have less debt, and are better prepared for retirement. Why? According to a Prudential survey of more than 1,000 LGBTQI respondents. Why is this so? The Wikipedia says this about the wealth and the money-making business of the LGBTQI, this group. Pink money describes the purchasing power of the LGBT community, especially with respect to political donations. With the rise of the gay rights movement, pink money has gone from being a fringe or a marginalized market to a thriving industry, parts of the Western world, such as the United States and the United Kingdom. Many businesses now specifically cater to gay customers, including nightclubs, shops, restaurants, and even taxi cabs. The demand for these services stems from common discrimination by traditional businesses. There is the link. If you want it, you can go there. The Bible.org then says this: every nation has turned away from God for the almighty dollar and the luxuries it can buy, peace and affluent at any price. Nathi sifisa ukuphila kahle, sibe nemizi emihle, sihambe ngey'moto ezinhle, sifundise iy'ngane ey'koleni ezinamagama. Yes, yizi thina sifundisa kwezingenamagama, but iy'ngane zethu asifunde kwezinamagama ey'kole. You know what I mean by that. The same commentary focuses on Babylon's evil influences, specifically her spiritual, moral, and political and national stupor. Then it says this. Bible.org, it says this: Babylon will promote the philosophy that happiness, significance, security, and fulfillment are attained by the abundance of the things people possess in traveling and luxury, in comfort and pleasure, etc. Frankly, this sounds exactly like America and much of the world today. This is my last slide. Then we'll be coming to your assignment. One might ask himself these questions. Which government does not conduct elections? Even the Afghanistans now, they do conduct elections. Who are the biggest donors of any election? The answer is the LGBTQI firms and communities. Why? Because once they've given you money, they're expecting a favor from you, so you must enact laws that are to their favor. Ellicott's commentary says, the drinking of it leads to their degradation and fall. The it here refers to the wine. We are interested on the word degradation, which according to the online dictionary means changing to a lower state or a less respected state. That means to us, the merchants trade with her that which degrades humanity. Ours then is to identify those items which are hot on the market, which otherwise degrades rather than improve the buyer's status. We should not just look for any item on the market, but luxuries, as stated in the verse above. That is your individual assignment. I'm not going to get there, otherwise we'll take a whole year studying Revelation 18. That is it, my friends. Now we can look at your assignment. I had asked you to identify some spots wherein Babylon fell. Since I've given you some clues, and remember, we are not on the business of condemning any party here. We're not even condemning the Roman Catholics. No, we're talking about system, not the members of the church. Those are being called out like you and I. So remember, God says he has other sheep which are not in his fold as yet, in John 10, verse 16. And the other sheep I do have which are not of this fold, them also I must bring, and they shall hear my voice, and there shall be one fold and one shepherd. It depends whether you do hear that voice and you recognize it. Hence, you are still in Babylon. That is it, my friends. Now, I'm all ears, under attack.